Zach, welcome to the cave.
Thank you so much, Elias. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me today. Come on, talk about your latest show, Family Law, which it's been out for a while, but we're about to see it on CW. It actually just got released about a few days ago, right?
Yeah, Sunday. Sunday was the launch in the States. But yeah, as you
Yeah,
said, it's season one is aired kind of all over the world
right.
already. And also actually season two is aired in like Europe and South Africa and Australia and all these places, and has even aired in Canada as well. So it's kind of
Wow.
weird. It's all over the place, but happy that it's coming to the States.
Hey, we're gonna jump more into that in a few minutes. Before, but I was doing some research on you. Born and raised in Canada, right?
Yeah. I'm a prairie boy from Regina, Saskatchewan, which is like the middle of the country, just like above Montana. So prairie, flat prairie, born and raised there. And then I moved out to Toronto, which most people have heard of,
Okay.
the biggest city we have in Canada. And I came out here for school and for acting, and just kind of continued my career out here. So I've been in Toronto for about 21 years now, which is
Wow.
a long time. Yeah, it's a
What
good
do you
city.
think? Someday, what do you think? LA? Or you're gonna stay in Toronto, just work out of there?
You're not going to believe this, Elias. I'm in the middle of packing up my house right now. I'm moving to Vancouver,
Okay.
where we shoot Family Law. We've been shooting there for the last 3 years. We've shot 3 seasons, and I'm gonna get an apartment out there as well, and kind of be bi-coastal in Canada. So Toronto and Vancouver.
Right.
But yeah, LA. I mean, who knows? Yeah, if LA calls, that's when you come.
Right.
That's my kind of motto. So, but I'm ready. I'm ready to rock whenever
Yeah, yeah.
the phone
So
rings.
how did you get into like the what made you hit with like the acting bug? What were you watching something? You're like, man, this is what I want to go into this.
It's funny. I was like 10 years old, and my dad, I was a kid with lots of energy, lots of like, was probably the loudest kid in the room always, not very shy. My dad came home one summer just before we was about to end school. He's like, "Hey, can you read this? Can you study this?" I was like, "What is this?" He's like, "It's a monologue." I'm like, "What's a monologue?" He's like, "Just read it." I'm like, "Okay." So I read it, and it's a little thing from William Shakespeare. And there's this
Right.
summer Shakespeare program for kids. And he's like, "Well, do you want to do it?" I was like, "What do I have to do? Memorize it and go. You go do an audition, and then if you get in, then you can like be in this program for the summer." So I did it. I got in, and it was this really cool immersive thing of like, you learn all the plays, and you learn, how theater works and staging. You design costumes. You do all this stuff, and that was the bug. Like, I was 10 years old and was like, "Oh, this is the greatest." And then, from there I just started doing tons of musical theater and went to university for theater. I went to theater school. And then being in Toronto, I somewhat shifted from that point to moving into film and TV. There's just so much film that's happening here, and
Yeah.
it's just a different muscle. And I was like, "Oh, I really, theater's always been a passion of mine, but film was kind of something new and interesting." So I delved a little more into it probably about 10 years ago. I was like, "Okay, I'm going to put my focus a little bit more on that." And yeah, it's kind of where I've been for the most part the last 10 years. I do a little theater whenever I
Yeah.
can, when I can fit it in, but often those contracts are a little longer. And
Right.
like,
What do you
you do something for like 4 months. So
what do you enjoy more now, the TV or the still the theater? If you had to
uh
pick.
I mean, if I had to pick, I love film TV. It's just such a cool medium. It's just constantly pushing like to new realms. Like, there's CG graphic stuff, the motion capture things. Television in general is just, it's in its heyday, right? There's never been more television shows ever,
Hmm.
and there's so many great shows out there, so much great content that's being made. um so it provides a lot of opportunity to do different things. I can be my character Daniel, a lawyer on television, and then I can go and play a terrorist, and then I can go play a doctor, and I can, like, I can just constantly jump from one thing to the next, which is pretty cool. That as an actor, that's something fun.
You mentioned content. What's your favorite content right now? What are you binging these days?
It's funny, people. I have not. I don't think I've watched anything in like 5 months. Like, we just wrapped season three, and so we film 5 days a week, 14, 15 hours a day. Rarely have any time to go to
Right.
the gym, let alone like watch a bunch of shows. But the last thing I did watch that I really enjoyed, I think it was the first two seasons of Ted Lasso. And I
Okay.
was like, I think I was like in my hiatus from season two to season three, and it was awesome. I loved it. It's funny, charming, has a good heart. I like, I know I'm probably late to the party because I know they've won Emmys for last however many seasons now. I was like, yeah, everyone knows it's a good show, Zach. Shut up.
So the show's based like off soccer. If you could do a sports show, what kind of sport would you want to do?
Baseball, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I am a huge baseball fan. Obviously, Canada only has one. I'm in Toronto, as I said. Canada only has one team, Toronto Blue Jays, which, you know what? They start tomorrow. They play the wild card
That's right.
for the playoffs. So, yeah, if I could do any baseball movie, I would be in my heyday. It would just be great just pretend that I actually had that skill.
Right. You mentioned Toronto. Like, I would love to see a team go back to Montreal.
Oh my God, I know, that's the dream. Actually, Expos and the Blue Jays were my two first favorite teams. It was amazing.
I'm from Massachusetts, so so it's a lot of Boston Red Sox fans used to do the drive to Montreal to watch them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that was a great rivalry. I remember as a kid watching. I just went to Fenway for the first time. Me and my buddies, I'm a big fan, so we travel every year and go to a different ballpark, follow the Jays. So we've kind of done the whole East Coast already, but last year, or about 4 years ago, I guess now, we did Boston, and it was, I mean, Fenway fans are awesome. They're crazy.
They're great, definitely crazy.
They're great. I don't think they're the craziest I've ever seen, but they're pretty crazy.
So, out of the projects you've done so far, because I wrote a few notes here, like Rusty Rivets, The Expanse, Kim's Convenience. Like, what would you say like is your favorite project you've worked on, other than Family Law? Because I know you're probably gonna say Family Law.
Yeah, I would say Family Law because it's just pretty cool. I would say I'll give you a couple. I mean, Rusty Rivets, you mentioned, was such a fun project. It's a cartoon, so it's just a different world of acting and performance. You go into the studio, and it's a kids show, so it's like I think the age range is like 5 to 8, so it's not like like making baby sounds, but we're able to tell jokes and do funny voices and stuff. And that was such a great project. I love doing that whole season, just because you go in the studio, I can sit there, I get to drink some coffee, and you got the sides right there, and you read it and you do a bunch of takes and you have fun, and you just play. So that was, and then after, because you never see it, then after that you actually get to see the product of like what they animated based off of your voice, which is like such a cool process. So Rusty Rivets I've enjoyed. I mean, I would say Cardinal, there's a television show called Cardinal, which is like a kind of a Scandinavian style dark drama, a cop drama that's based in Canada, very kind of in the world of like True Detective.
Okay.
And it was an award-winning show. I did 3 seasons of the 4th that they did, and I love that show. I mean, we shot in like northern Canada, and the show kind of like has very specific seasons. So 2 of the seasons we shot in winter, and it's like -40 and like a lot of snow. I mean, in Massachusetts you can get some snow, but like. But the cast and the crew and everybody was just so fantastic. Our 2 leads, Billy Campbell and Corinne Venice, are just like the best people ever. So that was honestly, that was my favorite project before Family Law coming around. It was just such a joy to be with those people, even though the content's like really dark. Like
those are the best shows though, when you have that dark content. You just, because you watch one and all of a sudden you're like, you got to get to the next episode. You got to get to the next episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, if you have a chance, I'd suggest it. It's a great show. It's only 6 episodes, so it's very much like that True Detective, like very like short kind of like mini series style. But it was, I'd say Cardinal. Go check that out.
All right. So Family Law, you mentioned now season 3 just premiered.
No, we just finished season 3.
Season 3. Okay.
Filming season 3.
Yeah. Season 2 just premiered, but in the States, season 1 just started. So we're a couple of years behind in the States finally.
Yeah, it's just so funny. It's so funny how it's kind of all over the place right now. As I mentioned before, like Italy and like South Africa and Australia, they're sending messages about season 2. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I mean, I've seen it, but it hasn't aired in Canada yet.
Yeah.
So it's a little staggered right now, but I think CW and the Canadian broadcasters, and then also the world broadcasters, I think we'll all be up in a row in line for season 3. So by the time that's ready to launch, everyone will be on the same page, and hopefully by then we'll already have season 4 wrapped.
That's awesome. So what's been like the fan reaction from those countries?
They're great. I mean, they're very, very positive. They're very engaged in the characters. I think a lot of people, was my reaction too when I first started reading the scripts. They're so surprised how funny it is. Because you think of like a Family Law, okay, you think of like like Law and Order and dun, 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 like very dramatic, and we have those moments, and there's tense court stuff that we go through, but it really it plays this line between comedy and drama so well. In a turn of a moment where there's really dramatic, a character interrogation or something, and then there can be a family moment between myself and one of my half siblings, and we're bickering like children that we are. And so it finds that nuance really well, and I think fans are really surprised by that and really enjoying the surprise that come each episode and with the characters. They're more complex than like, I'm a serious lawyer and it's not that show. And I think a lot of people maybe had that expectation when first hearing it before they watched it.
That's right. So Daniel, what do you love about him? Like, how do you describe him? Like, how did you prepare to play this character? Because he's all over from what I've seen, he's all over the place.
Yeah, he is. I love Daniel is like super type A, very confident. He's got a bravado about him. He's super competitive, which some of those things I can relate to because I'm pretty competitive and I'm pretty type A when it comes to certain things. But what I think is funny, I think it's funny to play is that Daniel he doesn't have that good of a sense of humor. Like, he can't take a joke and he can't really live in that world and laugh at himself, which is very, very far from who I am. But I love how, despite his insecurities and his the relationships, it's about being in the shadow of his dad, Harry, who's played by Victor Garber, and this now new competition with his sister Abby, played by JewelStaite, and his other half sister Janelle Williams, who's the character of Lucy. The four of us, there's such a cool complex dynamic between us that there's always something interesting going on in every scene, even if it's the episode is driving towards some conclusion, some case being solved or relieved, but there's always just the relationships and their complexity continue to develop as the episodes go on, and that for me is just so much fun because they're dramatic, they're heartfelt, they're goofy, we're taking the piss out of each other, we're laying in like jokes, but we're also trying to suss each other out and really trying to like figure out who we all are, because some of us are new to each other, as like Jewel and myself, Abby and Daniel have been estranged their whole lives, right? They've never met each other, so it's interesting dynamics to play there.
I was doing some research last night and I noticed that were you asked on your audition if you were a cyclist?
I was, yeah. We were doing, well, this is like I did I think, I don't know, 4 or 5 auditions, and then we did a chemistry read, which was cool. So Janelle and I flew to Vancouver. We're in Toronto, based in Toronto. We did a chemistry read with Jewel. And so we were doing all these scenes. It's a big day, and there's a couple other actors doing the same thing. And then, at the end of it, there's like, I don't know, 10 of them or 15 of them, the producers and the network and all these people. Yeah. And I walk out, and Susan Nielsen, who's the showrunner, the creator of the show, and part of the thing that she's a big cyclist herself, and and swimmer and all that stuff. So those elements of Daniel, like, that's her, like that part of like coming in the like the spandex Speedo thing type, like she wears that on the weekend when she goes riding, does like 200 kilometers with her group. So she asked me, she's like, do you actually know how to cycle? I'm like, oh yeah, I've done triathlons, I ride lots and all that. She's like, okay, great, okay, this is good, great. I'm like, did I just get the part? I think I might have got the part.
What's been the biggest challenge playing Daniel? The law terms? Have you learning all the law stuff?
Yeah, every kind of show, procedural show, like a cop show, a medical show, a law show, they have their challenges. Law jargon's actually not that bad. It's just like you need to know the nuance of what you're talking about. Whereas like medical jargon, like an osteoplasty, blah blah blah, where you're like, I don't even know how to say these words, let alone like it's all Latin. Literally, it's all Latin. Yeah. So yeah, I think the challenge that I have just as an actor in it is being able to really portray and know exactly what I'm talking about, and know how to flesh out, court scenes. We all love those, just, from every, like from a Time to Kill movies, from other procedural things, like those are like that often the heart of the episode, at the heart of the story. And so it's been pretty important for me to like make sure I nail those, you got to come in super prepared. Often those are, 4 or 5 pages of dialogue, sometimes there's big monologues, you're going off on, you're doing the court scene, you're talking. I mean, we don't have juries in family law. So that's the one thing of like little, I'm like, damn it, I wish there was a jury that I could just be doing that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's all the other things of that are really fun to do and to be inventive with and to make fresh, because we don't do a court scene every episode, but there's we do arbitration scenes and we do the mediation and we do all these different things. See, look at all those lawyer terms, by the way, I just said. Like, you're like, yeah, right, exactly. We do these kinds of scenes, and it's really challenging, but it's also really rewarding when you're like, oh, like when it really pops. It's great.
Now you mentioned like the cast, like Victor and Janelle and Jewel, like pretty family, close family, like, but how do you describe like that working with them now?
I would say, I mean, it's the literal name of the show, but it's family. But we're a total family. We have been so fortunate because, I mean, we've done 3 seasons now, and it doesn't always happen that people are like, obviously people can be, professional and pleasant and fun to work with, but this show is a different level. Like, we love each other a lot. And I think, part of it came from, we started shooting season 1 just before the COVID break thing in March 2020. We had 2 weeks into the show, and then we stopped like everybody. And then we were on a hiatus for 4 months, but we knew we were going to come back. And we were the first show in Vancouver to actually come back to start filming. But during that time, we had 4 months to like really talk. So we were texting all the time and, calling each other, and like, we just all had a natural kind of, chemistry with each other. But that helped, because then when we got back into filming, it was just like we were all very close friends. And because we were shooting during COVID, we had to be in very tight bubbles. Like we couldn't go out, we couldn't go anywhere. So Jewel, who lives in Vancouver, her and her husband and her son, they were just the most consummate hosts. They were just like, hey, it's the weekend. Why don't you guys come over for dinner? I'm going to cook, blah, blah, blah. Because like, the 4 of us are always acting with each other. We had, no masks. We were in a little thing. So I think that really helped spur, because we just did we were social with each other every weekend, which is hilarious. Because normally when you work with somebody 5 days a week, after that, you're like, okay, I don't want to see anybody. I want to
see you Monday.
I'll see you Monday. They're like, oh, so we're hanging out Saturday? We're going to do barbecue? We're going to go on a boat? Like, what are we going to do? Like, let's do something. Yeah. It's like, so I love them. They're amazing. They're amazing human beings.
Mentioned Victor. He's a veteran. He's been in the game for a long time. Any tips and pointers from him while you guys were filming?
None, like, specifically. He never pulled me aside and like, Zachary, I would suggest that you, like, he never did that. But he is, through how he holds himself on set and how he treats everybody from the cast and crew and how he prepares. Those are examples of like what a legitimate professional A-lister veteran does, and so I was fortunate, and I also have the keen mind of like, I'm paying attention and I'm seeing what like this is the masterclass of you learn how to tweak the craft and learn how to figure your own things out, right? And so I've been fortunate for 3 years to be go toe to toe with him and be in scenes with him, and it's I would say the very first scene we ever shot, I wasn't even intimidated. I was just like, I was kind of awestruck. I'm like, I was pinching myself like, this is the coolest thing that I get to act across from this guy right here.
Right.
Like, wow. But I was never nervous, because he doesn't, he's so warming and welcoming that it's like, oh, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what I'm doing. So now I can just do it. And now, honestly, the biggest challenge we have is all of us not laughing and breaking a scene because we're having too much fun, like, so like, okay, sorry, we're going to get this one. Okay, here we go. And then, because we know each other so well, somebody will make a look and like, okay, I can't even look at your face now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Family Law CW season 1 in the States.
Yeah.
What's your bucket list for like a role? Do you have a certain role you kind of hope you want to play someday? Or is there somebody you hope that you can work with someday?
Well, I know both those things. I would say, bucket list thing. I mean, I know technically it's not probably possible because I'm not British, but 007 is like would be, we have my other actor friends, and even Jewel and Janelle, they have a little like joke of like it's going to be 00 Smadu soon, my last name 00 Smadu. So that would be that's something like that, of like a big or people talk about Marvel Universe, all that stuff like that, but like I would love to do one of those shows. I films, I think they challenging in their own right, and the intensity and the specificity of like whether it's an action or whatever that stuff, it'd just be really fun to do. I mean, when I was a kid watching like Stallone and Schwarzenegger and all these things, like you're like, oh my god, they gotta like run through the jungle with guns and like cool. So the little like 8-year-old Zach would love to do that.
How come we don't see movies like that anymore?
Well, yeah. I think what's his name, Chris, one of the Chris's, no, not Evans. Well, he's one of those. Chris Pratt does a lot of those like war movie things, but yeah, there's not a lot of them. But actually, and then it goes into who's one of my favorite actors. I think my always go-to answer is Tom Hardy. I think he is like he's the cat's ass. He knows he's got something going on. I remember watching him in Inception. It was kind of the first time I really clocked him, and then I went back and watched some stuff, and I remember watching his first scene where he's like sitting there with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's doing the scene, and I just remember going like, I don't know what this guy's doing, but it's amazing. It like I don't even know what he's doing. What, like, I had to watch it so many times back and I still don't. I couldn't tell you. That's the magic of it, and I always find him very riveting. And he's got a gravitas, and
he's being rumored for James Bond. He's one of the names they keep throwing out.
I know. It would be great. He's been one on my list, but I always think, I think the thing is he too old now? Like, these James Bond things, they want, Daniel Craig did it for what, 7 years or 10 years or something. Like, you're going to need somebody who's like in the late 20s or 30s, and then you could carry it for, unless they're going to do like the one-offs again, who knows? But that's that inside baseball we always talk about. Like, could it be him? Because maybe he's too old. No, like 5 movies you need to do. What's going to happen?
So what's next for you now? Any other projects you're allowed to tell us about?
No, nothing concrete right now. I'm after shooting 4.5 months, it's a little it was wonderful, but it's exhausting. It's 7 days a week when you film, and then you're prepping on the weekends. And so we just kind of finished up a month and a bit ago, and the day after we wrapped, I went off to Europe and took a little break for like a month, just to like, okay, I need to recharge. And I mean, that's the thing that I've been trying to really balance now, because you can really burn yourself out. I felt between some of the seasons jumping into other projects right away, I was like, I'm, it's fatiguing, it's tiring, it's mentally tiring, it's all that. So I want to always make sure I bring my like full energy. I'm pretty high energy, and I'm pretty captain positive, and so I need to make sure it's been important for me to like make sure I take care of myself in the interim. So so I've done that, and then now ready to rock. Let's see what's gonna happen. Yeah, I've come back. I got a little bit of a tan. I'm feeling good. So yeah.
That's awesome. Zach, how can the viewers and listeners now find you on social media, keep up with you?
Instagram and Twitter, just at Zach Smadu, ZACH SMADU. Yeah, I'm there, and yeah, come say hi. I hope you tune in and enjoy the show. It was lots of fun to make, and hope you enjoy it.
Zach, I want to thank you for giving a few minutes today. This was a blast.
Oh, Elias, my pleasure, man. So great to talk to you.